So in this verse, he is continuing to explain the source of his confusion, or further explaining why he is in this position. So he says, my situation right now, it is so bad that I don't see anything which can solve it. Nahi prapasyami. Pashyami means to see. Prapasyami also is see. I cannot see anything. Apanudyad, to drive away my grief. Mama apanudyad, which can drive away my grief. Yat shokam uchchoshanam indriyana. That shoka, that lamentation, that drying up of senses. Uchchoshanam indriyana. I cannot see anything which can drive away. And if you say, I will win the battle, or even I die and go to heavenly planets, avapya bhumav asapatnam ruddham, meaning if I attain avapya bhumav asapatnam ruddham, the earthly planet, the kingdom of the earth, without any rivalry. Bhumav asapatnam, with no rival, if I attained the whole of earth, control of earth. If you think that will solve my issue, no, that doesn't. What to speak of that? Even Rajyam Suranam api chadhipatyam. Even if you gave me the whole heavenly planets, control of the heavenly planets, if you were to grant me the sovereignty like that of the demigods in heaven, Rajyam Suranam api chadhipatyam, mama apanudyad nahi prapasyami. These things cannot possibly, or I am unable to get this driven away by all these things. So that is the situation of Arjuna, and obviously he has done the right thing by submitting to Krishna, by surrendering to a spiritual master. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, Arjuna could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems. So we see Arjuna giving so many reasons based on Shastra, Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, how he should not kill these elderly people based on family tradition, Varnashrama Dharma, based on compassion, based on seniority, respect. He was obviously very knowledgeable, but his so called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems, which were drying up his whole existence. It was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. And Prabhupada continues, academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, etc., are all useless in solving the problems of life. Help can only be given by a spiritual master like Krishna. So, either knowledge, we can be a very knowledgeable person or very prosperous person, very shrewd in our thinking, but none of this can solve problems of life. Even you being a prosperous nation or by wealth and economic development, nothing can solve the problem. In the end, Prabhupada also talks about many parts of the world, there are states which are replete with all facilities of life, which are full of wealth and economically developed, and yet the problems of material existence are still present. So there, people talk about the importance of economic development for getting rid of the problems of life, the importance of growing in wealth for getting rid of problems of life or health. But none of this, because all of these on the material platform, none of them can help. For example, the Middle East. Some of these countries in the Middle East are very rich in natural reserves, the oil, and which is actually the source of all problems or one of the problems. And the biggest problematic arena in the whole world in terms of conflicts between mutual nations and civilian conflicts is in the Middle East. People are trying to um, grab the oil, or people are trying to end the religious monarchy, or even within a particular religion, there are segments. Even in the Muslim countries, core Muslim countries, there are segments, the Sunnis and Sufis, Shias rather, and then there are terrorist groups who are trying to take over the government, like in Iraq and Syria. America went and attacked Iraq and got Saddam Hussein, and the vacuum left by it provided opportunity for terrorist groups to take charge. So the ISIS has come about, um, and they have caused so much problems in Iraq, Syria, and they expanded their reach into European countries and even America. And now gradually they are dwindling. But the point is, it is not that economic development or your richness or anything materially opulent is not good enough. One might think, oh, this person is so rich, this nation is so rich, they can do anything. Why does he need to bother? But in our history, even in recent history, many great personalities have undergone either severe depression, in spite of their being very rich, materially opulent, or famous, or they even committed suicide. You might have heard, maybe a year or two back, a famous Hollywood actor, Robin Williams. He died by committing suicide, reportedly of severe depression. And he was one of the most admired, most prolific actors ever known in the history of Hollywood. Very rich, and he has earned all accolades from the public. And he was being looked up to as a very noble person and a person who gives comedy relief, but then his life itself was a tragedy, according to him. And then we, of course, know many other people like that. In Bollywood, we recently heard this great actress, great or not, I don't know, but very popular actress, Deepika Padukone. She has made statements that she had to deal with bouts of depression every day she woke up. And at the same time, when the magazines were hailing her as, being on the top of the world, her movies were all raking in hundreds of crores. In 1 year, she has made multiple movies, everything earning more than 100 crores or 200 crores or whatever. But she was having to deal with severe depression. And there are many scientists and philosophers, knowledgeable people. Forget about rich people or actors who may not be knowledgeable. There are scientists who are knowledgeable. Like, for example, there is a person called Edwin Armstrong. He committed suicide because he invented something called FM radio that we all are very familiar with now. He was the inventor of FM radio. He was an American electrical engineer, and he patented this idea in 1914. But then he had to deal with so many politics, which was curbing his prominence, which was destroying his FM radio, because there was AM radio which was very popular at that time, and all these corporations, radio corporations, they thought that his invention would destroy the AM radio market, and so they tried to halt his advancement. And so he was unable to bear that his invention would never succeed. And so he went to the 13th floor of his apartment in 1954. He was um, around 60 plus at that time. And then he jumped and died. And like that, there are many examples. There is this person called Wallace Carothers. He was an American chemist and he was credited with the invention of nylon. And he had to deal with severe depression. And his family was laden with so many disasters. And after his sister died suddenly, he couldn't cope anymore. And he just poisoned himself. At the just young age of 41, he died. And then there are many philosophers who so called know the knowledge of how to lead life, how to teach people what is the way of life. They all committed suicide. Many rich people, statistics prove that many rich people deal with depression, incompleteness, voidness in their lives. Many rich people are called pajama rich. That's the word they use, pajama rich, meaning they can wear a pajamas and go to five-star hotel for a breakfast because they have nothing to prove to anyone about their richness. They have achieved everything, but still they have to deal with their loneliness, incompleteness. And many people, one big worry for them is the wealth that they achieve. Their biggest worry is they are living without spending any of them for their own use, or they are worried that it is just going to places where they don't want it to go. And if they are pious, they turn to charity. But otherwise, the other problem for them is they don't know how to spend, and they are constantly worried who would attack them and how this paparazzi, the media, would project them in a negative light. They are always under the pump by the media. There are so many examples like that. Even though after becoming famous, after having whole wealth at their disposal, whole knowledge at their disposal, the whole nation becoming very opulent and powerful, still it is not enough to get over these problems of material life. Like in the yesterday's purport, Prabhupada explains this forest fire, it keeps burning for no apparent reason because that is the nature of this material world, to always give problems. And even in Srimad Bhagavatam, we see the example. One of the greatest devotees, powerful personalities, Vyasadeva himself becoming despondent after writing the whole Vedic literature. He was feeling despondent and he had to get the counsel from his spiritual master, Narada Muni, to get over his despondency. And Narada Muni chastised him. You are despondent because you are writing literature which is still putting people on the material platform. Because the Vedic literature, he thought that he would raise the people gradually from the mode of ignorance to mode of goodness, and then gradually they will take up spirituality. So his method of raising their consciousness was by encouraging their material activities by giving some restriction. So if people are attracted to sex life, he would grant the marriage life, although with restriction. Okay, you can have only one spouse, like that. Or you can have sex only after marriage. So like that, whatever you want to achieve, you can achieve by doing this particular ritual, by doing this karma kanda. So predominantly his focus was on the material platform, which obviously contaminated his mind also. And Narada Muni chastised him. What did you do? So yes, your intention was good to gradually raise people, but people will think that this is all in all. They will never care to come to your ultimate point of Krishna consciousness. They will think that these are all in all. There is nothing beyond this, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls as Kavitam. Kavitam va Jagadisha Kamaye. Kavitam means elaborate, eloquent poetry. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses the word Pushpitam Vacham. The Vedic literature, the major portion contains Karma Kanda, which contains Pushpitam Vacham, flowery language, which let the people know that by doing this they can go to heavenly planets, they can achieve this happiness, they can achieve that happiness. But ultimately, it is all on the material platform. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. So, in the purport today, in the end, Prabhupada says, even if you were to go to heavenly planets, you have to come down. Kshine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti. Even if you achieve the highest position in this world, that will not last for long. You will have to come down. So, therefore, just like Vyasadeva's example, just like Arjuna's example, when we become despondent, which we will be in the material platform, everyone has to undergo that situation day in and day out. And the only method is, as Prabhupada is writing in the purport, only if they consult Krishna. The help can only be given by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna conscious is the bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. And Prabhupada also explains who can be that spiritual master. So Prabhupada explains the quote from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Who can take the position of a spiritual master? Who can remember this without looking at the purport? If you had listened, heard the purport. Yes? Yes, thank you. So, it doesn't matter which varna and ashrama you belong to. Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Sudra. Nyasi means sannyasa, Vipra means from a Brahmana, Sudra means from a Sudra family. It doesn't matter what your background is, but what matters is what your consciousness is, what's your advancement in knowledge is. That is Krishna Tattva. If one becomes a Krishna Tattva Veta, that person can become a Guru. Ei Krishna Tattva Veta, sei Guru hoy. These are some of the very important statements Prabhupada makes in the purports and his lectures. We should remember all this. These are all the salient points of scriptures. So Prabhupada picks them out. These are the jewels hidden and mentions them. And then Prabhupada also writes about this famous statement. Shatkarma nipuno vipuro mantra tantra visharadaha avaishnavo gurur nasyad vaishnavaha swapacho guruhu. A person may be very expert, Shatkarma Nipunaha. He is expert in Shatkarma by Brahminical duties. A Vipra is supposed to know Shatkarma. And Mantra Tantra Visharadaha. He is very expert in reciting mantras and tantras. But if he is not a Vaishnava, Avaishnavaha, Gurur Nasyat, he cannot become a Guru. But if one is born in a Swapacha family, but if one becomes a Vaishnava, then one can be a Guru. But one should not take this to extreme and generalize this statement. Oh, every Vipra, every Brahmana is like this, or every Swapacha is like this. That is far from it. This is only an example to show that if one becomes a pure devotee, his background does not matter. He can come from a Brahmana family, or he can come from a Swapacha family. But one should be careful to derive extreme conclusions from this. So one example to illustrate this point that Prabhupada mentions here, Shatkarma Nipuno Vipro, Avaishnava Gurur Nasyat. There were so many Brahmanas in the village of Annakuta at the time when Krishna's deity was discovered. Krishna's deity, Gopala deity, he comes in the dream of Madhavendra Puri. And he says, my dear Madhavendra Puri, because the priests were afraid of Aurangzeb, the Muslim kings, they hid me in this place think before Aurangzeb itself. They hid me in this place, and I have been in this place lying within the mud for so long, and I would like to come out now. And please take me out and worship me. And Madhavendra Puri wakes up from his dream, and immediately he collects some village men, and he goes to that place, and they dig that place, and there he finds the most beautiful Gopal deity, and they install it. They install the deity, and they conduct a big festival, Annakuta ceremony, which is still very famous throughout India. And during the installation of the deity, they obviously require a lot of worshippers, pujaris. And there are, even though many qualified Brahmanas at that time, Madhavendra Puri initiates them again as Vaishnavas and then lets them do the worship of the deity. Just to illustrate the point that one has to become a Vaishnava in order to uh, come to the position of worshipping the deity, or have a path of becoming a guru. So Vaishnava, becoming a Vaishnava is very important, and uh, rendering or submitting to a Vaishnava guru is very, very important. And a guru, in the strict sense of the term, cannot be called as a guru unless he is a Vaishnava. So that is the point Prabhupada is making here. So I'll stop here. Any other questions, comments on what we discussed today?